Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome. In today's video, we'll be conducting an extreme test of the super compact cordless blower from Worx, the WG543E. We'll thoroughly explore what this easy-to-use 20-volt Nitro cordless blower is capable of in today's video. Before we dive in, for those of you who haven't seen the detailed review of this device, make sure to check it out. I'll link the video in the top right corner of the info card. To ensure you don't miss any future videos, subscribe to the channel now and activate the bell icon. You can find the current prices to support this channel in the video description below. Thank you very much for your support, and let's get started. For the extreme test, I'm using a large 20-volt 5Ah PowerShare battery. I fully charged it before the test to provide maximum power and endurance. I started by testing the cordless blower on a paved surface. Initially, I used power level number 1 to clear the area of mostly dry but sometimes wet leaves. As you can see, the leaf blower is already powerful enough in power level 1 to completely clean the entire area. The device only reaches its limits when a larger pile of leaves is formed. At this point, power level 1 is insufficient in terms of airspeed, and it's recommended to switch to power level 2. However, the advantage of power level 1 is, of course, its energy efficiency, which results in a longer battery life in practical use. In the test, I still switched to power level number 2 and cleaned the remaining paved area without any difficulties within a very short time. In the next step, I tested the blower under a slightly heavier load. As you can see in the video, I started using the blower in power level number 2 to work on wet, partially compacted needles on the paved surface. I must say, I was quite surprised at how well the cordless blower coped with this challenge. As you can see, it has no trouble clearing the surface of the needles, so the pathway was completely cleaned within a few seconds. Next, I tested the special feature of the Worx cordless blower, which is the adjustable setting between volume and speed. I cleaned 2 adjacent areas on the lawn with different settings. From the direct comparison, I can say there's indeed a noticeable difference in terms of air volume. In the volume setting, the blower covers a slightly larger area. This means the setting is particularly recommended for large areas, preferably on paved surfaces. What I would personally consider optimizing at this point is the attachment of the adjustable nozzle. In my practical test, it's not been uncommon for me to accidentally push the movable attachment too far forward while adjusting the function, causing it to fall off the blower. In my opinion, a physical stopper would be quite useful here. Following this, I continued to use the blower in the speed setting under a significantly heavier load. I started cleaning a lawn area in power level number 2. As you can see in the video, the leaves were partly embedded and thus much harder to dislodge. As expected, the blower had a much tougher time in this scenario, but still managed to completely clear the area of leaves. The airspeed of up to 58 meters per second is sufficient to clean small to medium-sized areas quickly. What's particularly noteworthy, as described earlier, is the handling, because the blower, even with a large 5Ah battery, weighs only 1.7 kilograms, making it super lightweight. Using the device in practice is therefore extremely comfortable and does not cause significant fatigue even after several minutes of use. To conclude the test, I pushed the blower to its limits by testing it on very large and partly wet leaves. As you can see in the video, in power level number 2, it initially has no difficulties, which personally surprised me very positively. The blower achieves a sufficient airspeed to remove even the large and wet leaves from the lawn, at least up to a certain point. This means, as mentioned before, once the leaf pile becomes too large, the blower with its existing air volume can no longer move it. From practical experience, I can still say that the power is sufficient to easily clean small lawn areas. Lastly, I conducted a noise level measurement to illustrate these results. For this, I used a decibel device to measure the noise emission at a distance of 1 meter. In power level number 1, the blower generates a noise level of approximately 81 decibels, and in power level number 2, about 84 decibels, placing the blower's noise level in the mid-range. It's worth mentioning that due to the extremely small turbine, a very high frequency noise is generated. Over time, this relatively high squealing noise might be somewhat uncomfortable. And not to forget, who would have thought, when it comes to battery consumption, the small blower's not really conservative. After the comprehensive extreme test with about 15 minutes of continuous use in power level number 2, the large 5 ampere-hour battery still showed 2 out of 5 bars. In practice, one can assume an approximate runtime of about 20 minutes, which, in my opinion, is completely sufficient for such a compact device. And that brings us to the end of the extreme test. If you liked the video, please show it with a thumbs up and subscribe to not miss any future videos. You can find the current prices to support this channel in the video description below. Thank you very much for your support, and until next time.